This is the Speak For Yourself podcast featuring the best of Colin Cowherd and Jason Whitlock. I'm your host, Jason McIntyre. 4 days off for good behavior the weekend. No show Friday, no show Monday, but we're back and firing on all cylinders. Whitlock does not buy that the San Antonio Spurs are a legitimate threat to the Warriors. Cowherd loves analogies. How's this one? If he qualifies for a loan, you got to give it to him. Terrell Owens qualifies for the Hall of Fame, you got to give him the jacket. Speaking of the Hall of Fame, Chris Carter, who got in after a while, talks about his weight and personal stances amongst voters. Very interesting stuff. Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard tells you why the Cavs' latest struggles are no big deal. Folks, I'm not buying it. Are you watching Cleveland? It's the LeBron and Kyrie show. They've got nothing else right now. Plus, former Cavs GM Lance Blank stops by to break down the recent Pat Riley comments on LeBron James. Finally, former NFL head coach Eric Mangini drops by to talk about Jerry Jones' friendship with Tony Romo and whether or not it's clouding his judgment. Ready for Speak For Yourself? Cowherd and Whitlock, take it away.
Welcome to the show. Colin thinks Jerry Jones is too close to Tony Romo for his own good.
And Jason thinks LeBron should have stayed in Miami. Speak For Yourself starts now.
I do. Don't look at me funny, Chris.
Miami's hot right now.
Don't look at me funny.
Oh,
It's Monday. Or no, it's actually Tuesday. All right. Hello and welcome. We're joined today by Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard and former NBA general manager and longtime Cavaliers executive Lance Blanks, who also played at Texas for Tom Penders. All right, but let's start in Cleveland, where the Cavs lost more than just a game to Miami last night, as newly acquired Andrew Bogut went down with a broken leg in the first minute of his Cavs debut. Bogut's season-ending injury comes just as Cleveland has lost 4 of their last 6 games. Colin, should LeBron James be concerned about the Cavaliers' struggles?
No, not at all. I feel like once you're a champion in this league and your best players are healthy, Kyrie's fine and LeBron's fine. So I'm a champion and my stars are ready. The NBA regular season becomes a little like the NFL preseason. I'm crossing my fingers and trying to get healthy. And I look at
Bogut just got hurt.
Well, but they have the number 1 seed in the East without him. So they never built him into their tapestry. I like Bogut. I'm a Bogut fan. By the way, Boston wanted him. Houston wanted him. San Antonio wanted him. I like Bogut. But he was not part of their team, and they were the number 1 seed, and they were the co-favorite without Bogut. Love's going to come back. JR's going to come back. Kyle Korver's here now. I think they're fine.
A motivated Miami team is inching closer to that number 8 seed. And again, I'm not saying Miami can take Cleveland out, but it would be an emotional series, and it would take a toll. I like this Miami team. I like the structure, the culture, better coaching in Miami. Again, I would be a little bit concerned. They got Bogut for a reason. They thought Bogut was going to help for a reason. Now he's gone. They've lost 4 of 6. To me, LeBron James, love him to death. But in adversity, he can make a team a little emotionally unstable, and that's when they have problems.
Totally disagree.
I'm having a hard time not laughing, Jason. I'm sorry. What? Miami, Bogut? Can we stop talking about Bogut like he's Moses Malone?
LeBron was disappointed.
I mean, my God, disappointed, but he's probably your 12th man. I mean, they go that deep. They only need him for certain points of a game. Like, if we play Golden State and we decide we want to go big, we'll throw in Andrew Bogut. If we play the Spurs, we'll throw in Andrew Bogut. Now, concerned as far as winning a championship, that's going to be a concern no matter how well they're playing, because the Spurs are legit and Golden State will be legit. The East, look at the top teams in the East. Atlanta's lost 3 straight. Boston's lost 2 straight. Washington's lost 3 of 6. Toronto's lost 2 of 3. It's the dog days of the season.
Think about this.
No reason to worry.
Think about Cleveland's still number 1 in the East. Now think about this. They lost J.R. Smith now for 5 weeks. Kevin Love for 3.5 months. Birdman was there, tore an ACL out. Shumpert missed a week. Now Bogut's out. They're still number 1.
I get it. You're looking for the storyline. I get it.
Can I jump in and get a 20-second timeout here?
Can
I get a timeout? I think the worry is justified. Not so much because of the who, but the what. What's the position? The position is a front court player, something that they don't have a lot of. So Bron's worry is justified. As is Mr. Whitlock's
But who
worry.
does have a lot at the front on the front line?
if you look, Chris, and you like getting data, you like to substantiate points. I see you do it all the time. Look at who this team has lost to. This team, they lost to Atlanta. They lost 2 to Miami. What is that showing? You're seeing a pattern. They lost to Memphis. Those teams have bigs.
Okay, I have a question,
Those teams have legitimate bigs.
Like, for instance...
There you go.
Here's
double.
My issue with the East. Boston, outside of Jay Crowder, doesn't really have a guy that matches up with LeBron. I don't like Washington's bigs necessarily. Their backcourt's terrific. Like, I look at the East, and I always come back to Kawhi out west could give LeBron real issues. Who eliminates LeBron in the East?
And LeBron had 30-some-odd points last night in 17, played well, and they still got their butts kicked. Kyrie Irving had a nice game. They still got their butts kicked at home. What we're talking about is size, Hassan Whiteside, bad matchups. Again, we're not talking about them losing these, but could someone take them 6, like my Pacers used to take them, and make them sweat and struggle and get them a little emotionally off balance?
I think they could go 6. They went 6 last year with Toronto. I don't think they could go a tough 6, like where it's ever in doubt. And I just think the
those
Cavs...
Pacer series, for a game or two, they would be in doubt.
Against Miami? Yeah, those were good series. Look, remember, LeBron James, they were down 3-1 last year to the best regular season team in history. A few regular season losses is not going to get them all up in and up.
Yeah, but your view is too narrow because it's not just about beating teams in the East. 9 times out of 10, they're going to be in the final. How do you get there, though? What if Tristan has an issue or an injury? Then what? Where do you go from there? They have issues up front for the finals. They have issues if they have to play San Antonio. They have issues. Even JaVale, I know he's not the second coming, but that's a legitimate big. At West, they have guys that Golden State can throw at them. If Houston sneaks in there, so the issue is not just getting into the final. How do they get there? Do they have more injuries? And what does it look like in the finals? They're measured by winning titles at this point.
To San Antonio, where Kawhi Leonard put on a show last night. What a TV product that was. Stuffing MVP frontrunner James Harden to seal the win. Just seconds after dropping a triple that put the Spurs up for good. San Antonio is right on Golden State's heels for the top seed in the West, and I think they'll end up as the top seed. But the Warriors will be without Kevin Durant for at least the next month. Jason, I think now the Spurs will overtake the Warriors. Are the Spurs a bigger threat to the Cavs than Golden State, though?
No, I don't believe they are. I believe Golden State remains the top threat, and then I believe the second threat is the Cleveland Cavaliers themselves. I'm telling you, when adversity hits, and if they've lost 4 of 6, the Cavs, I'm telling you, can become their own worst enemy. But as it relates to San Antonio versus Golden State, look, Kevin Durant is going to come back healthy. Golden State is the top threat still. It's great what Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs have done, but Tony Parker still got a little too much wear on his tires for me. And LaMarcus Aldridge has backed up a little bit and not ascended going to the San Antonio. I love what San Antonio is doing. Again, it'd be a nice series, but Golden State is still the top threat.
I will say this. LeBron's the best player in the world. When the Pacers gave them trouble, it was Roy Hibbert. LeBron doesn't struggle. You have to have a secret sauce for LeBron. Hibbert, an average player, became a problem. Became a problem. Bogut last year was a problem. Got hurt, series over. Paul George could be at times a little problem, but generally you put wing on wing, even as good as Kawhi Leonard is, LeBron can overcome him. If you look at the Celtics, when Miami got Chris Bosh, it forced Kevin Garnett to leave the paint. And therefore, Garnett left the middle, opened it up for LeBron. To me, LeBron matches up so well with Golden State. Who's their rim protector? Now, JaVale McGee, again, is beyond serviceable.
Durant's been their best rim protector.
Okay, and he won't be at 100%. Yeah. So we saw how LeBron matched up in 13 finals games against Golden State. We have seen it now in 2 finals. Psychologically, physically, he goes right at them. He has struggled with mediocre players like Roy Hibbert. Older players, Kevin Garnett, around the iron. I think San Antonio's got size. They got Kawhi. They've got a great coach. They've got girth. I think San Antonio can throw a lot of stuff at LeBron. I think he believes no Bogut, no bigs. I can go right at. That's how he attacks Golden State.
I'm with Colin. I think that even throughout LeBron's career, but especially lately since he's not quite the athlete he used to be, he doesn't finish that well over length. Okay, he can finish obviously over it, but it's not something that he's great at anymore. And obviously the Spurs have more length. And they have shown in 3 NBA Finals matchups that they can throw some stuff at him that he still puts up huge numbers and plays well, but that makes him think, that gives him pause, that it's harder for him to dominate. We saw last year, even when they lose to the Warriors, he's dominant.
Controls the series.
I do think the Spurs are the tougher matchup. It's close, but I go with the Spurs.
I think right now, psychologically, they own Golden State. I think there's something that's being missed here, and that is all of that history. LeBron understands winning. He understands organizations. He's experienced that being in Cleveland, going to Miami, coming back. X factor in that to me is Greg Popovich, who he's on record respecting this season alone. Mm-hmm. So he's going to have to go against a lot of history. With San Antonio, are they getting closer to the end of the window? It's a lot of passion and urgency there beyond the history to get a title this year. I think by far San Antonio poses the most problems. And lastly, what about the continuity? Durant's out. Yeah. How quickly does that happen when and if he gets back healthy?
I think we all realize the playoffs are you get a long warm-up. Kevin Durant will be back for the start of the playoffs. I believe when these teams met, Golden State hammered Cleveland. Yeah. And so, again, Kevin Durant is going to get a lot of build-up before we get to June and face each other in the finals. I think the chemistry issue with Golden State will be a non-factor by the time we get to the finals. And Kevin Durant's length, along with JaVale McGee, who to me is a bit more active than even a Bogut at the rim, I think could be a problem for LeBron.
As great as athletes are, I mean, A-Rod's one of the all-time great baseball players. But once upstairs he doubts himself, they dropped him to 8th in the batting order. Remember, famously against the Tigers. Even the greatest players of our lifetime, they can be messed with. I mean, Greg Norman, great golfer, goes into the tank.
Who are you talking about, Curry or Greg?
Think about LeBron. When LeBron has struggled, the Dallas series, lost total confidence. When I watch LeBron play San Antonio, there's doubt. When I watch him play Golden State, he is never more aggressive. Even LeBron has had moments of self-doubt in his career. Never against this, as you call them, the best suburban team in NBA history, the Warriors. He feels like, I'm the alpha male. These are suburb kids, man.
Yeah, and guys, to me, it's not so much about the offense. Who's the best shooting team in the NBA today? I'm taking the Cavs. Have you seen them from 3? Kyrie Irving. Even LeBron is knocking down threes. Yeah. Kyle Korver. J.R. Smith's not back. Kevin Love.
Channing Frye.
Channing Frye. It's not, to me, about getting to and finishing at the... Offensively, I think they'll be fine. To me, really, the issues are on the defensive end. If they don't have anybody consistently who can play up front, help them be dynamic and defend when other teams are looking and trying to get to the rim.
Spurs? You think they'll have trouble guarding the Spurs?
I think they'll have trouble guarding anyone in the West in the final situation. Because here's why. Here's why. In the finals, things are heightened in terms of focus. You've seen a team a billion times, little adjustments here and there. All the coaches have made them. So it becomes more and more difficult to execute when you get to that point.
All right, to Terrell Owens, whose erratic personality and selfish attitude has kept him out of the Hall of Fame for 2 years in a row. Even still, a Hall of Fame voter, Jim Trotter, says the opposition to T.O. from voters this year actually went too far.
In my 11 years on the committee, I will say that that's the most uncomfortable I've ever been in a room listening to the debate on Terrell Owens. And I went to one of the Hall officials during the break, and I told him that. I said, I've never felt this uncomfortable about a guy being debated in this room, because it did. It felt personal to me. It may not have been. I'm not saying it was personal. I'm saying it felt personal to me, and that was very disturbing to me.
Colin, is it fair for some Hall of Fame voters to have a personal stance against T.O.?
No, here's how. Let me see if it's analogous to this. If I go to qualify for a loan for a house, if I check the boxes, you got to give me that loan. If you don't give me that loan, our court system has stepped in and said, you can't say, well, I don't like the neighborhood. I don't like you. I check the boxes, I get in. Now, that may not be perfectly analogous, but if I check all the boxes...
Let me tell you something. They get down to that race part.
But what I'm saying
you could be disqualified.
Well, I mean,
okay.
We know about redlining, and that's illegal. That's illegal.
Supposedly.
But my point being is, we have a system that was set up so that wouldn't hopefully occur, not legally. So if I check all the boxes, you're keeping me out because you don't like me?
Again, I think all stances have a personal element to it. I like and respect Jim Trotter, known him for a long time. I'm uncomfortable with the inference that, and again, I wasn't in the room, Jim Trotter was. The inference, though, that somehow T.O.'s being treated unfairly. Look, this is the fact T.O.'s going to have to deal with, Jim Trotter's going to have to deal with, other people that are on the T.O. The Hall of Fame players, I don't think, are in full support of Terrell Owens joining their team. And I think voters are aware of that. And I think that is at the basis, along with all Terrell Owens' other issues in terms of did he really help contribute to a winning environment, I think that's at the heart. Terrell Owens will not be a credit, in my opinion, to the existing Hall of Famers. The Hall of Fame is about the 77, 80 guys that are alive. It can't be about one person. And I think that's the fear. T.O. joins the club, and the next thing you know, all the Hall of Fame conversations about T.O. and what he's doing. I don't think it's personal, and I don't have a problem if it's personal because I think all stances are personal.
And I don't know what all the boxes are, but when you talk about Hall of Fame voting, it's not like they're given a manual and said, okay, as long as the guy meets this criteria, he should be in. Each guy has a subjective view of what they view a Hall of Famer to be. And look, playing against Terrell Owens in the Super Bowl and dealing with him and seeing what he did coming off the injury that he had, that was a Hall of Fame performance. And I think that he's never been in trouble outside of football. That there are a lot of things that say he should be in the Hall of Fame, but you also look at the whole football player, and being a good teammate is part of the equation. As coaches, when we look at draft picks, we look at character. With free agency, we look at character. That's part of the mix, and it's part of the mix in this discussion.
Well, Jim Trotter, he said he's been there doing this 11 years, so he was in the room when my candidacy came up, and it was personal. The first year I was up for the Hall of Fame, the NFL and the Pro Football Hall of Fame invited me to the press conference. I was in one of the rooms, stashed away, so when they make the announcement, they encouraged me to come. I was against everything I ever believed in as far as going. I agreed with them. I did it. I didn't get in. Next day, I go on TV. I blast the process. You know what? It became real personal. For the next 3 years, I wasn't a finalist. So, Jim, this ain't the first time you've seen this. It's been personal for a long time. If you tell a person who's a professional, and that title as being one of the voters in the Pro Football Hall of Fame is one of the best things on his resume, and you tell that man or that woman, you don't know what you're doing, it's going to be personal. And that's exactly what happened to me, and it's exactly what's happening to T.O. Now, as far as when T.O. gets in, as a speaking Hall of Famer, we will accept him in and his mess. But he's fighting the wrong battle, all right? His candidacy has gotten more and more flawed the more they kept him out. The first year, he said Marvin Harrison shouldn't have got in. Well, why did he attack Marvin? And the second year he didn't get in, he said, I'm not going to beg to get in like Chris Carter. Well, what you doing, bro? I mean, seemed like begging ain't no bad thing. You know?
Closed mouth can't get fed.
Well, for T.O., I'm willing to call a truce with T.O. because it's better for the Hall of Fame. It don't look good. He's missing out on a lot of good opportunities that he should be benefiting from, but because he continues to run his mouth, because he continues to assault the voters, he continues to assault the men that are in the Hall, all right, it's going to be a longer wait for him.
You just said a mouthful, and you stated even more reasons why, again, it's about the men that are already there, that have passed on, the men that are still alive. And now, again, just like everything with T.O., it's been reduced to it's about Terrell Owens.
It's not the accounting Hall of Fame. These are rock stars. Rock stars trash hotel rooms. Pro athletes are artists. I give them a lot of wiggle room. I consider athletes to be like rock stars. They are uniquely gifted, and they're not accountants, and they don't cross every T and dot every I. But if your production is revolutionary, or if it's transcendent, yours was, I got to get a guy in. I got voted.
That's a good point, but
and it's hard to argue against what the guy did.
No, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
And if he takes a step back and maybe gives a little bit of a mea culpa and says, look, I've learned from my
He wants to come here and
experiences.
talk about it. He don't want to talk to me about it, but he'll talk to other people. Shannon's trying to gather up trying to get him in.
the Big East tournament gets underway tomorrow at 7 Eastern from Madison Square Garden when St. John's tips it off with Georgetown. Then Xavier takes on DePaul. The Big East tournament begins tomorrow only on FS1. All right, welcome back to the show. Chris Broussard and Lance Blanks are back with us. Let's move to Miami, where despite beating LeBron's Cavs last night, Pat Riley's Heat are still on the outside of the playoff picture in the East. Riley admitted this week that LeBron's departure from Miami was, quote, the most shocking thing during his 22-year tenure with the team. Colin, it's been 3 seasons since LeBron left Miami. Should Pat Riley stop talking about it?
No, not if he's asked a question. This is my pet peeve. So I'm not a pet peeve guy. I mean, I don't like traffic. None of us like traffic. But my pet peeve in our business is we ask people questions, they give honest answers, and then we rip them. Like if you ask him about LeBron and he said, yeah, it's the toughest thing in my life, as a reporter, you're like, you call your boss and you're like, I got the quote of the night. Like Pat Riley was authentic. Good for Pat Riley. He didn't hide from anything. I mean, in this business, everybody's got a PR, an agent, a handler, they're spinning stuff. Pat went out and said, yeah, man, that just shocked me. That's raw right there.
Not only did it shock him, I think it woke him up because I think he was asleep at the wheel. I think he took LeBron for granted. I don't think he should have been shocked by this. LeBron's not returning your text or phone calls. That's a pretty good sign he's leaving. But I also think, though, it's motivated him. He's at the end of his tenure, basically. He's in his 70s, I think, now. And I think he's building something in Miami. He's putting, again, they need a superstar to go alongside Whiteside. But I think the organization, the culture, and the coaching are better in Miami than what LeBron has in Cleveland. And if you look at, they have some pieces in place. Yeah. If they can add a superstar, I think Miami makes another run for a title.
Historically, no state tax and aqua water, they do add that superstar. Eventually, they do.
I think you believe way too much in the Heat. I mean, how many teams can we say if they add a superstar, they're going to be right there? I mean, look, they're a nice little team, but to say that this is a team that's going to give Cleveland some problems, that LeBron should have stayed there, there's nothing he could have done in Miami that would have equaled what he did last year in Cleveland.
Better coaching, better culture. Again, if LeBron ever wanted to catch Michael Jordan in terms of title, he had a better shot in Miami doing his own thing in Cleveland.
Dwayne Wade would probably still be there. He was older. At this point, he's not as good as Kyrie Irving.
Bosh was falling apart physically. Yep. They didn't have a bench.
Bosh wouldn't even be there.
They couldn't afford a bench. They didn't have they won titles with Joel Anthony.
Figured out a way to dust those people and get the pieces around LeBron.
You know why he left? It's
he wanted a little more.
It's a cautionary tale. Think about this. Who's struggling in the NBA now? The Lakers. Pat Riley. Phil Jackson. You know why?
Because don't put Pat Riley in there.
Well, time out, though. Pat Riley just said, I was shocked. Pat Riley never got the carpet pulled out before. What's happening in the league?
Yeah,
the players run the league, not the old guys.
Yeah, and I think that
not effectively.
Pat has earned the right to say what he wants. You mentioned his age, too. He's getting to be at that stage of his life. I have a mother who does it, where they say what they want at a certain age, no matter who's listening or who cares. But I think also that it was in the works when LeBron left Cleveland. I think he needed to leave, but I also think he desired coming back. At least it was talked about with dinners, with teammates and otherwise at his home in Akron. and he never sold that home. So I think emotionally and spiritually, he was always connected to Cleveland. And LeBron's smart. After his career, is he going to be down in South Beach, or is he going to be somewhere in Northeast Ohio? I think it's obvious.
I agree with you. And what this quote from Riley says to me is it does speak of how much admiration I believe he has and had for LeBron. Because I can think of two things that I think should have shocked him more than LeBron leaving. Because I'm with you. I think the writing was on the wall. But one, getting LeBron. LeBron had really no reason to have no connection to Miami. So getting LeBron, I think, was more surprising than losing him. And then Dwayne Wade. 13 years he's in Miami, 3 championships. Everybody thought Wade was going to retire as a member of the Heat. That's not more shocking than LeBron going home?
In my view, though, I think Pat Riley pushed Dwayne Wade out. It's necessary in order to restructure and rebuild his team. Dwayne Wade may circle back under a completely different deal and not overpaid, and at a time when he can help them try to win. I think Pat Riley's positioning the Heat for one more run before his career is over. Again, I'll say it again. LeBron, if he wanted to catch, Michael Jordan should have stayed in Miami with Pat Riley. These guys need coaching and structure and culture.
Ty Lue won a championship.
The other thing.
I love Ty Lue, but he ain't Pat Riley or Spoelstra even.
I think you got to factor in that organization in Miami, in terms of ideology, it's built around Pat Riley's ideology. Well, and he's comfortable drawing a line in the sand, if you will, with whoever, Wade, Bron, et cetera. Bron went to, that organization is built around LeBron's ideology. Yes. Regardless of how you get into the arguments of who's making the decisions or not, it's LeBron's spirit. We know that from 4 to 6 weeks ago when LeBron started chomping at the bit. What happened?
All right, welcome back. Joined by Hall of Famer Chris Carter, former NFL head coach, our friend Eric Mangini. Let's move to Dallas, where the fate of the Tony Romo is still up in the air. Asked yesterday if he looks forward to having closure on the Romo situation, Cowboy owner Jerry Jones offered yet another confusing answer, saying, quote, well, that's an appropriate word, but an inappropriate word because I'd like to stick around a long time, and I know he's going to be around a long time, and we won't have any closure. We've got a relationship closure. Is not a word. This dang thing's confusing me just to read. Jason, is Jerry's friendship with Romo clouding his judgment here?
No, I really don't think so. I think initially it was, and initially in terms of the comments he makes and even these comments he's making now, they sound cloudy because emotionally, but in terms of what his actions are, I think Jerry has ultimate clarity. He's going to do what's best for the Dallas Cowboys. This isn't about doing what's works for the Cowboys and Romo. It's about doing what's best for the Cowboys. Cowboys have paid Romo probably $100 million. They've done what's best for Tony Romo. Now it's about doing what's best for the Cowboys. I don't see them rushing into anything. They hope someone gets desperate and makes a trade offer, perhaps. They're not just going to let him go, let him run off to Washington or wherever the hell he wants to play. They're going to do what's best for the Cowboys.
I don't know. I feel like there's emotion here. Am I wrong on this? I feel like Jerry, relationship, Stephen Jones' son, Tony helped him.
Yeah, I think
Jerry's always been pro-player.
I do think there's a relationship here, and I do think it's difficult for him because the businessman doesn't want to let him go. The businessman knows he's paying him a ton of money and hasn't gotten much out of him in the last few years. The businessman knows his value is going to be better after the draft. The businessman's worried that he's going to go somewhere and win and potentially, what if he goes to the AFC and beats Dallas at some point and let's say it's the Super Bowl. Well, the businessman is worried about all those things, but he does have a personal relationship, and I'm sure that he wants to look consistent and he wants to look like he's trying to do what's in the best interest of Tony Romo as well, but it's hard for him. It's hard.
It's hard to please himself because they do have a relationship, but it's even more hard not to make a mistake. Because I believe that Tony and the relationship, it makes it emotional. Jerry has been that way with his players for a long, long time. And the players that have that relationship, the Troy Aikmans, the Emmitt Smiths, the Michael Irvin, they can understand the dilemma that he has. But what's best for this team? Because Jerry would like his team to stay relevant. And if he can utilize Tony Romo as a draft pick say before the draft or right after the draft, to make this team better, or release him after June where you get the cap hit spread over 2 seasons. He should do what's best for that team. He has a championship caliber team, all right? He needs to remove the emotion from it and do what's best for the team from a cap standpoint. I wouldn't. Now, Coach is more on the fan of he would keep him around potentially as a backup. No, I wouldn't. I would keep him till June. If I can't trade him, then June 1st, I'm definitely going to whack him.
Let me throw this out there. I was thinking about this the other day. I'm not sure if I told you this. So Garoppolo with New England is a really good backup, and Tony Romo with Dallas is a real good backup. And in both instances, you have a starter, so you have leverage. Could Jerry Jones be sitting back and saying, I'm not giving Tony away? Because if Belichick gets 4 draft picks for Garoppolo and I give Tony away, the optics are horrible. That maybe Jerry Jones is feeling a little Belichickian pressure that New England's got a backup. I want to see what the market is.
And I totally think that. I think if he is going to make a move, the value isn't right now because as you get close to the draft, everybody wants those draft picks. It's hard for people to make a trade right now.
And, Coach, it's not a great crop of young quarterbacks coming into the draft.
That's right.
And then once you get through the draft and you're a year out from the next draft, those draft picks drop in value to for teams, and they're willing to give more for next year's draft than they would at this point. And the last thing you want to do is give away an asset that you feel is very valuable. And I think Tony Romo is valuable, especially considering his cap number with whoever he goes to in his current contract. To give him away, it just doesn't make any sense.
Isn't it a possibility, though, that they're just in a no-win situation here? Any move that Jerry Jones makes could blow up in his face. And I know it's our job to pick a winner and loser and to be ahead of the curve, but I'm not sure if there is a great decision to be made here or one that's foolproof.
Well, we're talking about a high-class problem, right? He's got a young quarterback that he's paying nothing that's really productive, and then he's got another guy that he potentially can trade for something very valuable or keep.
The market's also been said is when you trade a Joe Montana or a Brett Favre or a Peyton Manning, they will win elsewhere for a couple years. So if Tony Romo went and flourished, Jerry could say, well, it's like when you get a divorce. Your wife's not going to go and hide for the next 40 years. She may get remarried. You can't be paralyzed by that. We have 3 examples of great quarterbacks leaving, and all those guys won something.
And you know what all those other teams had in common, though? They were sitting on first-round picks, I believe, in terms of the heir apparent. Dak Prescott is still a 4th-round pick, and I know he played great. This, again, why I just feel like Jerry's in a really tough spot. Again, if Dak Prescott were a number 1 pick and played like that, I think they feel more comfortable letting him go.
The pick has nothing to do with Russell Wilson. He was the number 1 pick, but when you play like a top player, it doesn't matter when you're drafted. I got drafted in the 4th round. I mean, once I got there, people realized they made a mistake.
Well, you look at Oakland, and they lose their quarterback late, and everything falls off. So
that's a great point.
To keep a guy like Tony Romo for what he costs, it's not bad.
You can make an argument the backup quarterback. I mean, we all know the quarterback's the most valuable guy in the league. Is the 2nd most valuable guy on your roster your backup quarterback?
Yes.
You could make the argument.
This is the Speak For Yourself podcast featuring the best of Colin Cowherd and Jason Whitlock. I'm your host, Jason McIntyre. Thanks for listening, everybody. Fun week ahead. I'm doing my best to try to get college hoops in the show, man. Cowherd and Whitlock not buying it. You know, I mean, listen, if you go back and listen to the Lonzo Ball segment, listen closely. You can tell these guys aren't in. I'm all in on championship week. I'll be glued to the TV. I got a good post on the Big Lead about seniors who could carry their team in the NCAA tournament. Remember last year, Villanova, North Carolina, Oklahoma all had good seniors, all made a run. I really like Kansas a lot this tournament. I'm very geeked about the NCAA tournament, so I'm going to be adding as much as I can to the podcast. Remember, subscribe on iTunes. We're on Facebook. Speaking of, I may be doing a Facebook Live Thursday about the tournament, and then I'll be doing one Monday after the brackets are out. Talk to you tomorrow.